Good day. This is Jim Winship for Diplomatic Connections magazine. Thank you for joining us on our website today. Our guest is Mrs. Amanda Hyndman, who is General Manager of the Mandarin Oriental Hotel here in Washington, DC. Amanda, thanks for being with us today.
It's great to have you as our guest. Thank you.
Our pleasure as we sit here in the presidential suite and helicopters are going by the windows literally as we start. Can you tell us a little bit about your career as a hotelier?
Sure.
A word I never use except in interviews like this.
I mean, to be honest with you, it didn't really, I didn't plan for it to be that way. My parents worked overseas when I was a child, so I actually dreamed of being in the diplomatic service because I went to all these gorgeous cocktail parties and I thought it would be a very nice job. But as it was, I got a part-time job washing up, not very glamorous, but believe it or not, I fell in love with it. And so I went to hotel school in Scotland for 4 years. And then I joined a company called Hyndman Hotels. And it was my sole ambition to be general manager before I was 30 and to be the first female general manager of the company, which I was, in Aberdeen in Scotland. And that actually brought me over to Houston, Texas, because of the oil industry.
Yes, Aberdeen to Houston becomes an unusual route, but a typical one for the oil industry.
Yeah, which was great. And then our company was bought by a Singaporean investor. We became Millennium Hyndman, and I transferred to London. And then after 15 years with that company, I went to the Waldorf in London, which is a very iconic hotel, but it was actually owned by the Meridian. And I started a huge renovation there, but then the management contract was taken over by Hilton. And then after 6 years at the Waldorf, I'd always dreamed of working for Mandarin Oriental, and I had the opportunity. So I had 2.5 years in Hong Kong, which of course is our homeland.
Yes.
And I've been here in DC for just about 2.5 years.
Marvelous. Well, that's truly an international career then at that point. You've moved around a great deal. Since you've managed hotels in both the United Kingdom and Hong Kong and now in the United States, what do you think you learned about this business from that international experience, Amanda?
I think even if you're working domestically in your home country, it's about learning agility because you're in different situations all of the time and it's the way you respond. And I admittedly had the bulk of my career in the UK, but I've been on holiday to Asia, which I find the oriental culture very, very seductive. And I read a lot of books about the best way to take on the challenge. But actually a personal friend to me said, you must be very, very respectful to your colleagues. It's all about face. And you should praise loudly and publicly. But if you have to criticize, you should do it very privately and quietly and discreetly. And I took this on board very seriously because I tend to be quite outspoken and why use 300 words when 30 will do. And I have to say it stood me in very good stead. But then when I came to the US, I thought to myself, well, what's so different about that in any culture? Everybody appreciates being recognized and being thanked for their efforts. And you want to put people in an environment where they can thrive and do their best. So I think, the Asian culture, certainly in Hong Kong, there is a fabulous service ethic. People tend to take the job as being for life, and they want their families to work there, and there's a real intrinsic loyalty and passion. Now, whereas in the US, of course there's loyalty and passion, but it may not necessarily be a job for life. And we're more trying to encourage people to come into the hospitality industry and make it first choice. I think, our American guests and American colleagues are very outspoken, which is great because it lets us know where we're going wrong and indeed where we're doing well. So I think you just really have to be open and to the local culture and learn as quickly as you can along the way and hopefully build the relationships which, whether for a guest or a colleague, are critical.
Now, I know that there are now Mandarin Oriental hotels all over the world, not just in Asia, but I think the tendency is to think of the Mandarin group as an Asian group. Why place a hotel in Washington, D.C.?
Because we're the nation's capital, right? This hotel actually has been very, very important for Mandarin Oriental in establishing our name in the United States. We all love New York and that's fabulous. But, this is the capital of the United States. So I think in terms of our fan and, if you like, the company flag, it was very, very important.
Well, you mentioned the fan, and I noticed you and all of the staff we've met have their fan lapel pins on. Can you tell us a little bit about the significance of that logo? And I know as well you've played off it in interesting ways with the advertising campaign, I'm a fan of the Mandarin Oriental.
Yes. Well, when Mandarin Oriental was launched on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange in the mid-1980s, we needed a symbol, to unite everybody behind. The concept was to fuse our luxury and elegant brand, but also recognizing the individual locations and the local charm, across all the countries in the world. And our original hotel was the Mandarin in Hong Kong, which opened in 1963.
Right.
So it's the 50th anniversary next year, in 1973, and that merged with the Oriental Hotel in Bangkok in 1984. Now, the Mandarin and the Oriental are probably two of the most famous hotels in the world. So when they came together, hence the name came together. And then we wanted an image that would bring all of those components together, luxury, comfort, service, and excellence. And so we chose the fan as being very symbolic of Asia, but at the same time not overly ethnic, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And very specifically, our fan has 11 blades, and they represent the 11 pillars of our legendary quality experience, which is our service promise to the guests.
Fascinating.
And I'm very, very proud of my fan.
And I know some of the hotels actually have adopted individual fans, unique fans,
Yes.
as their symbols. Have you found a fan for Washington yet?
When the hotel opened, actually, we worked with the Smithsonian Institution.
Ah.
And obviously the Fritz Acker is our closest gallery, just 2 blocks away.
Yes.
And we chose a fan from that collection that we used as our own.
Ah, fascinating, fascinating. Well, tell us a little bit about the what it means to have the tradition of Asian culture mixed with the identity of Western hotels, but particularly here in Washington.
I think all of our hotels aspire to achieve a unique sense of place. There's some hotel companies you can walk into anywhere in the world, and you wouldn't necessarily know which city you were in.
Yes.
So when you arrive at our hotel, you walk into our Jefferson Monument-inspired lobby, which is kind of a wow. And whatever you do, don't ever stand on one side and whisper.
Because the sound travels.
I've been caught out before. So I think, that is unique. But having said that, there's obviously design features throughout the hotel which take on our Oriental heritage. We have the fabulous painting of the Empress Zizi swinging over Washington DC. Now, this original painting is actually in the Forbidden City, and she's swinging over Beijing. So we have artwork, we have floral arrangements, of course the colleagues' uniforms, but I think most importantly it is our service, and hopefully very, very respectful, but truly wanting to delight the guests.
Yes.
And recognise their needs and expectations, and make a truly memorable but authentic experience, so that although you're in Washington DC, you're very much part of the Mandarin Oriental.
And it shows in all sorts of touches. As we sit here, we're surrounded by modern furniture, but Chinese-inspired antiques, certainly with a pair of Tang Dynasty horses directly behind me. So it certainly shows in that kind of attention to detail.
Truly differentiates us in the marketplace. We're very proud to be in DC, and we do truly international business, but our Oriental heritage, and I think the way people associate that with the best service in the world is what we would like to be known for.
Now, one of the interesting things is your location is not in sort of the mainstream of hotels in Washington D.C. What's the impact? I guess part of the question would be why choose this location. The other would be how does that location in the Southwest make you unique?
Well, we're very proud of our location in the Southwest, and I think the single most important thing is that the vast majority of our rooms have water views on one side over the tidal basin and on the other side over the Washington Channel and the Potomac. And certainly when I first came to visit this hotel, I was staggered to see yachts, literally outside the window, because of, that's the marina down there. So I think the views are very, very important. But of course, the proximity to the monuments and the National Mall, We're literally 2 blocks from the Mall, all the museums of the Smithsonian Institution, plus all of the fabulous monuments. So it's a great location for leisure, but also for business downtown. I walk into downtown for dinner in the evenings. It's a 20-minute walk, or obviously in a car, it's 5-10 minutes maximum. But if you actually look at our location on a map, we're equidistant between the White House, the Capitol, and the Pentagon. And so that obviously suits many of our guests.
Yes.
And it's really very, very quick and convenient. We're literally minutes from National Airport, also Union Station. So I would be the first to admit we're not a traditional location in DC, but we're very proud of being in Southwest. And of course there's the whole regeneration of the Southwest waterfront that's coming,
Yes.
which is breaking ground very shortly. And I think will make us one of the hot places to be in DC.
And other than the White House, you probably have the best view of the Jefferson Memorial. Anybody in town.
I kind of think it's our memorial. I don't say that on camera.
Mr. Jefferson might have some objections, but it is striking. And as we sit here, we're just coming up to the Cherry Blossom Festival as well, and it's got to be a spectacular place to be for cherry blossom.
I think it's amazing until you've actually seen the cherry blossom in DC to understand the magnitude of the blossoms, but also the cultural significance. And of course, this year is the centennial.
Yes.
And we're actually hoping to have the granddaughter of the mayor of Japan, who did the original gift, to plant cherry trees in our garden. And the best thing about our location is it's fabulous walking. I actually live in a hotel, which is quite unusual in the US. It's more of a usual thing from Asia.
Yes.
So we have our little private bridge from the garden that takes you directly to the tidal basin. So you can walk around and see the Jefferson, and of course the new Martin Luther King monument.
Yes.
It's fabulous. I walk up to the National Mall most mornings, and I walk around the Capitol, which is about a route of an hour. I love going up to Eastern Market. There's a fabulous organic farmers market up there. Or even, Georgetown is an hour away, and Old Town Alexandria is less than 2 hours away. So it's a good, flat walking city.
Yes.
As I say, there's so many places.
And we should emphasize, those are walking times.
Yes.
So
Yes.
by car, those times, Georgetown would be 10 minutes
Yeah,
away,
exactly.
and Old Town would be not much more.
And of course, it's incredibly safe. Which
Right,
is very
and it
nice
is,
for our visitors.
and I'll put in the plug for you as well. The walking paths are actually quite remarkable,
Yes.
going any of those places. So it is, if you're a walker, it is a perfect location in Washington, no question. Washington used to be, the word might be too strong, but almost a hotel wasteland. And now if not abounds, it has several world-class luxury hotels. What distinguishes the Mandarin from the competition, I guess?
Our oriental heritage. I believe that there are lots of beautiful hotels, but what differentiates the service and the guest experience is the way we're treated. And that's about our colleagues and the way that we're motivated and the way we're trained and empowered to go the extra mile. So I think hopefully the grace of service that we teach and the care for the guests and really truly wanting to go over and above is what sets us apart.
Let me go out of order in the questions, but you mentioned colleagues and training. And I know one of the things that you instituted coming to the hotel was a new or a refreshed program of colleague training. Can you tell us a bit about that and how it works? Are you using colleagues to train colleagues?
I think it was a development program. Of course there was training and development programs in place before. But, when you've worked for Mandarin Oriental and come from Asia, you have a real insight into the culture. And that's not so easy to teach to everybody. So we have a very high percentage of colleagues who've been at the hotel since it opened. And my priority is to keep those colleagues because we want to keep their knowledge and their understanding and their passion. So, for some colleagues, they come to work to earn a living, but other people would aspire to have a higher quality of living by earning money. And so if we can offer career development internally, it's much better than bringing people in from outside. And that may sound as if it's stating the obvious, but we're building up the business, so with higher business levels, we need to hire more people. We're aspiring to deliver higher levels of service. So, really, rather than going outside, we have a very rigorous process of assessing our colleagues through a two-way appraisal process to say, what do you see yourself doing? What is your aspiration? Well, I think that you have potential to go to this level. And then either through cross-exposure or through training, giving them the opportunity. And personally, I would always rather give somebody the opportunity, even if they're not ready, because they understand a hotel, they understand the company, they understand the brand. And everybody needs to be given a chance. I was given a chance.
And people rise to the challenge.
They do, absolutely rise to the challenge. And I think that has been part of our success in the last 2 years in growing the culture exponentially.
Now, in the training programs, do personnel move back and forth between various Mandarin hotels around the country, around the world?
Yeah, they certainly can do. Much as we're trying to promote internally in this hotel, we've had a number of colleagues transfer to the Mandarin Oriental in New York, the Mandarin Oriental in Boston when it opened, and our most recent hotel here was the Mandarin Oriental in Las Vegas. So we actually have a program with the new hotel that colleagues come as cultural ambassadors for a couple of months to help with the opening. But then, sometimes they like what they find in the new place, so they choose to continue their career there.
Now, there's more to a hotel, I have learned, than just rooms and restaurants, food service. The Mandarin Oriental has some of the largest display space of any hotel in the city. Can you tell us how that's used and how that piece of the business meshes with what we think of as the more traditional hotel business?
Sure. Our meeting space is the largest meeting space in a luxury hotel in DC. We have 38,000 square feet, which even by Mandarin Oriental standards is pretty large. So we have 2 ballrooms, the Grand Ballroom and the Oriental Ballroom. And then it's on a whole unique level of the hotel. It has direct access from Main Avenue. And then we have a series of breakout rooms, some of which have natural light. So the group and the catering and social business is very important for us. And our challenge is to match the inquiries that we have for guest rooms with the meeting space that we have, to build, if you like, the right balance in the hotel, because we wouldn't want to be all of one thing or all the other. But it's exciting. We've been, Washington DC, a number of Fortune 500 companies have their annual meetings here, or chief executive forums, or CFOs would come and gather. And then, of course, members of Congress and the Senate would come and address them, even more importantly than that. So it's exciting. They tend to choose DC to come and to meet, and then there's a lot of off-property activities, obviously around the monuments and the museums.
Yes.
And some very high-caliber guests and speakers and entertainers. So it's a really exciting part of the business.
What facilities do you have to deal with the requirements, particularly of the diplomatic community? I'm thinking about things like translation facilities as beyond just the breakout rooms and things, and security particularly. For better or for worse, security is an absolute concern in this day and age. How are you particularly equipped to handle the needs of the diplomatic community?
When the hotel was built, which was only 8 years ago, our Mandarin designers actually consulted with security services as to the right things to incorporate in the structure. So to that end, we have a number of entrances to the hotel. So a VIP may require a totally separate entrance, or in case of a mega VIP, they may require multiple exits. And so we have 3 different totally separate egress and ingress points, which of course is important. We have an in-house security team. Our director of security and risk management has been with the company for 15 years. So she is hugely experienced in dealing with these types of delegations. And actually from our colleagues' side, we have colleagues from 65 different countries.
I was going to ask.
We're pretty international, apart from England. And I understand, I spoke to the HR director this morning.
Actually, it's a dangerous thing to say with a Scottish background these days, apart from England.
Well, I know. Well, my husband's from Glasgow. But we speak 24 languages at the moment. So when the different delegations come in, and actually, in fact, when I have the opportunity to go and visit in the embassies, I'm usually taking a couple of colleagues along with me who are from that country. And so obviously the requirements in terms of local meet and greet we can manage in-house, but translation can be brought in either from the face-to-face meetings or with all the audiovisual setups as well.
Now, thinking along those lines, what about special events, things like weddings or family celebrations that in Washington come from 1,000 different cultural directions? how are you set up to deal with the particular cultural demands of dietary requirements or particular kinds of celebrations that might not be the norm in the United States?
I think, to be honest with you, almost every wedding or gala we have has a special need. I mean, as you say, we're all truly international now.
Yes.
So I think from a culinary perspective, we have a very broad reach. Our chef actually came from the Mandarin Hotel-Washington DC, where he had a Michelin star. So actually to have a Michelin star banquet chef is pretty unique even in DC. And so, depending on the requirements in terms of menus or entertainment or service, we have a pretty strong repertoire. Our banqueting team, banqueting is a very sophisticated operation in the city. They've been with us since opening. And so I think we've managed to deal pretty successfully with all the challenges we've had. I mean, we have a number of national days from the embassy, which we love hosting.
Yes.
And of course, with all of the different suites and the different ballrooms and meeting room configurations, we have a lot of flexibility to offer the best choice.
Marvelous. What when you have VIPs, I know we're sitting in the presidential suite, which is marvelous. I know that the suites underwent a renovation fairly recently. What was the goal of that renovation? Other obviously renewing, but I understand there was actually some fairly important redesign going on within the suites as well.
I think, from when the hotel opened, we've been in business for 6 years. And obviously in the course of that time, you get a lot of feedback. I mean, we have regular guests in this presidential suite, which remain nameless, who love to give us feedback about why don't you do this, why don't you do this, and likewise the other suites. I mean, what is unique about this suite is obviously the double height ceiling and the views outside. But for example, with a number of the larger delegations, they like to have a large seating arrangement, but with plenty of space and seating for the supporting entourage. So that was really the unique opportunity here to create that space that could be flexible, to be a residential feeling just for maybe a romantic couple or a rock star, but also to be able to host the delegations and have all of the interconnecting rooms that is required for security or aids and things like that. Our second suite, the Oriental suite, is fabulous, and it overlooks directly onto the Jefferson Monument and the water views. And there was a real need to have meeting space as well as a lounge area.
Yes.
So we were able to open up some of the space, but at the same time to create private dressing rooms and vanity areas. So that side of the personal arrangements was taken care of. So, I mean, the feedback has been great. And I suppose what's stating the obvious is every delegation, every entertainment star, every CEO of a big company has a different requirement. And, our challenge is to be able to respond to that as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible. And, while I would honestly say we don't get it 100% right, we're truly open to learn. And we have a very detailed, guest history where we try and record all of those preferences so we can truly anticipate the guest needs when they come back the next time.
And you've been very discreet. I understand very much the need for discretion. So I'll let the who shall remain nameless stay there rather than asking about a famous guest. But you do have famous eateries here, famous restaurants, and not just Citizen. But let me start with Citizen because, in a sense, it's an icon within an icon here. How does having that sort of world-class, really, restaurant impact the hotel and the hotel impact the restaurant?
Okay, I'm glad you asked about Citizen because it's a subject that's dear to my heart. As you said, DC's come a long way in terms of hotels in the last few years, and there's also a huge number of new restaurants, which is fabulous for guests and visitors alike, and great for the economy, of course. I think Citizen has become a modern classic. Eric Siebold, our chef patron, opened Citizen 8 years ago, and what differentiates Citizen from all of the other fine restaurants in the city is that Eric Siebold cooks dinner every single night that service is open. So he's no celebrity chef going in and out of Vegas and New York and Miami. Eric Siebold is a man obsessed, and I mean that's a compliment.
Yes.
And a number of people in DC say to me, hey, I don't see your chef out on the cocktail circuit. You're damn right, he's cooking. And he is incredibly single-minded about that. Citizen is the only 5-diamond restaurant in Washington, DC. We had the highest rating on Zagat last year. So it really is very, very special what he does. And Eric is really into promotions and this, that, or that. But what he's really interested in doing is working with the producers of the food. So he's working with the Amish farmers and Darden farms to produce truly authentic local ingredients. So, you know, we're explaining the way we'd like the produce to be raised or the crops to be grown so that he has exactly the produce he needs, you know, to create his workmanship. And as you probably know, he started his career here in DC with Jeff Lubin, but you know, he had 6 or 7 years in the French laundry with Thomas Keller, and he opened Passe. So really his own magic and persona is the fact that he's been here for 8 years, but he's built a brigade. You know, Andy Myers is our sommelier, who's quite a character in his own right, and we've just been shortlisted for a James Beard Award for our beverage program. So, you know, whether he's giving you customized beers for cheeses or Domaine Romanée Comté, he has an absolute passion for wine and cocktails and a lot of funny stories into the bargain. And as you may have heard, our pastry chef, Matthew Peterson, is a really hot young talent who Eric and I hired 2 years ago. You know, he made it to the final of Bravo's Top Chef Just Desserts. And, you know, he had a vision to win that, you know, and he's got a beautiful little daughter, and a lot of what he does is inspired by her. But we now have a dessert tasting menu in the restaurant. So it's a lot of fun, and I really, really enjoy it. I mean, when Andy Myers was shortlisted for the Beard Award the other week, you know, Eric and Andy got together and they said, you know, why don't we do some sommelier tastings? And we tweeted it. And, you know, in 8 hours, that wine dinner sold out.
Amazing.
You know, that is the power.
So the hotel really is in a sense, a restaurant destination in and of itself with City Zen, but that's not the only facility in the hotel either.
3 years ago, you know, we wanted to emulate Eric's success with Citizen, and he took over our other restaurant, which he named Southwestern. And this was to, you know, use a lot of the local produce from Maryland and Virginia. And it's much more casual, it's comfort food. But we achieved our 2.5-star rating last year from Washington Post. So, I mean, there's a huge lunch scene in there from, you know, obviously the local buildings.
Yes.
But where the business is really ramping up now is in the evenings, with a mixture of hotel residents, but more and more DC guests who are prepared to make the journey and enjoy it. We've got a fabulous chef named Eddie Moran, and, you know, whether it's chicken under a brick, a huge ribeye steaks, or great seafood, you know, it's fun, but it's a total contrast. So, you know, if you were to come here and stay for a weekend or a staycation, you could stay in a beautiful suite, have a fabulous world-class dinner in Citizen, but then the next day get up and do something totally different. Go into Southwestern for jazz brunch or, you know, for an evening meal, and it's, you know, you don't need to leave the hotel. We have all of that under one roof.
But if you're not in the hotel, you're welcome to come and just share
absolutely.
That restaurant.
And there is a huge external clientele, and we have to balance that.
Great. What, the restaurant is named Southwestern, and you were in Southwest. Southwest?
Yes, Southwest.
What, how does a hotel, which obviously is a standout architectural landmark, and it stands out from all the federal gray buildings on one side and the local neighborhood on the other, how has the hotel tried to deal with its impact on the neighborhood, deal with the local community, and make itself part of a community where it's not automatically a natural citizen, I guess is the way I would say that.
I think, you know, as you've alluded to, 8 years ago it was very new. I'd like to think Southwest has got used to having us around in a constructive way. I mean, I feel that as a business and as an employer, we have a professional responsibility to give to the community, and then hopefully, all things being equal, they will feel the need to reciprocate. I mean, for example, last year, I met Councillor Tommy Wells, our local councillor, and they said, you know, we're going to have a big colleague fundraising initiative. You know, is there anything that you would particularly suggest? And he explained to me that some local residents were very keen to build a children's playground on the corner of 3rd and I Street. Now, believe it or not, there's very few public play areas for children, but a lot of families living here. And sadly, families were moving out of Southwest because it wasn't safe for us to take the kids to play. So we dreamed up this fantastic march, the fan, and the march being a route march, which was actually in September. So it was a 10K from this hotel, and it went up to the Capitol, along to the Lincoln Monument, around through JFK, and all the way down Haynes Point. And Eric Siebold came out on a Sunday and cooked a fabulous barbecue. So we had runners, we had people walking it, the colleagues brought their children, they brought dogs, members of the community took part. We had nearly 300 people. And so after the 10K, it finished up on Haynes Point with a barbecue. And from our suppliers and friends and fundraising, we raised $40,000. So I'm very proud that we're the single biggest contributor to the playground, which is going to be built next month. Our initiative from this year is to support Amadon Elementary School. We've always donated books through Teach for America to read in the classrooms.
Yes.
We also donate toiletries for recycling. We work with the local schools on the farm to school room program. So we're always looking at new ideas to give back. And as I say to people, we haven't got cash, but we've got time and passion and commitment. And we're very keen to offer that, if we can work in partnership.
Marvelous. Do you also have an employee training program that focuses on the neighborhood as well?
I think it's opportunities for colleagues to go out, whether it's with schools or whether it's giving assistance to elderly residents. I think we offer the opportunity. Colleagues have commitments in their own lives, so we have to be the facilitator for that.
What other facilities, particularly we've touched on the restaurants? I guess the one that we haven't touched on yet is the spa. You have, again, world-class spa facilities among the best, if not the most outstanding in Washington. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. Our Mandarin Spa is the only 4-diamond spa in Washington DC. And spa is actually one of the key pillars of Mandarin Oriental as a brand. It is one of our true distinguishing factors. And of course it comes from the holistic concept of the mind and body being in a good place.
Yes.
And so what is truly unique, apart from the myriad of treatments that we offer, now the treatments tend to be centered around traditional Chinese medicine. Our speciality is obviously different types of massage. And we have different facial treatments as well and body treatments, but really the essence of it all is massage. And the whole idea is that you arrive well before your treatment, so you have time to really truly relax, and you're greeted with oshiguri towels and slippers and tea. And then we have a number of heat and water experiences, which are very, very unique. So for example, for the ladies, there's jacuzzis, there's experience showers and a steam room, and on the gentleman's side, there's plunge pools and a sauna. So the idea is that you can take advantage of these facilities before you actually even begin your treatment. And then every treatment is customized to whatever your needs or wishes are, whether you wish to relax after a long flight, or whether you've got some muscle tension perhaps from being stressed out, or whether we do prenatal massages and things like that. There's a huge request for ladies and gentlemen to have a couple suite on these staycations. So we have our own range of Mandarin Oriental signature products, and we're actually opening a lifestyle boutique in the lobby next week, which will feature all of our signature oils, but also products that help the mind and the body, and that also represent DC all in a very holistic way.
And I know we're thinking about various kinds of exhibitions in the hotel. You have an exhibition hall, and I understand you have a celebration of kimonos going on now for the cherry blossoms.
Yes, we have our art gallery, which was, it's an art gallery which opened with the hotel. And in the past we've had commercial exhibitions, but I really felt there was an opportunity to work with the community for these exhibitions. So to celebrate the Cherry Blossom Centennial, we have a fabulous selection of kimonos, which showcased last week and is on for the next 6 weeks. But we've also worked with the DC Public Schools, and we have Art Night. I joke and say it's the best art that we have all year. We've also worked with DC Arts and Humanities Commission, and we had a big exhibition for the Congressional Black Caucus, which was very, very interesting. And also one that's very dear to my heart, there was a school for ladies and gentlemen with special needs called Articulate, which is now part of the St. John's Community Service. And we gave them our fan shape, and we asked them to design fans to represent the different Mandarin Oriental hotels around the world. And so we had about 25 fans, this size though, submitted to this competition, and we displayed them. And to see the ladies and gentlemen who are truly artistic, but are able to have an education and work in the way the rest of us are privileged to, was really humbling, and we've continued to work with them on different projects
Now there's a word, and it obviously comes from Chinese tradition. You have your Taipan Executive Club. Can you tell me a little bit about how that works? I guess there is a Taipan Club. I know that suites are tied to that as well. But how does that relate to the Chinese tradition, which refers back to the old China trade in the days of the China clippers as well?
Well, the Taipan was the successful Chinese businessman who was very, very successful. And obviously with his success came a certain lifestyle. So we have our Taipan Club, which is actually on the opposite wing of the hotel from where we are now. So it's got this wonderful double height architectural ceiling. And it's a lounge. And for our guests staying on our top 2 floors, the 9th and the 8th floors, these rooms have access to the Taipan Lounge. So basically it's like a hotel within a hotel. So you can have a private check-in up there, your own private concierge and business services. And then we offer a complimentary breakfast. And then there's light snacks during the day, so whether you want to go and have a coffee or a cocktail or a little meeting or work on a laptop. And then in the evening we do hot and cold hors d'oeuvres and complimentary beverages all night. There's a little meeting room there, there's a little business centre there. And most of our regular guests, to be honest with you, a number of partners of leading firms use it to have little meetings and to relax and just for some privacy and some private time while they're on the hotel.
Let me bring the interview back to you if I can, and that is that you won General Manager of the Year, I believe, award from the Hotel Association of Washington DC, and they noted several of these things that you've accomplished in your time here, particularly the outreach to the community and so forth. But I wonder, what does an award like that mean to someone in your position?
That's quite a difficult question. I honestly think it's very humbling to be recognised by your peers. And contrary to popular belief, I have great friends in the hotel community. We get together often. We try and support each other. We're not all fighting neck and neck on business all the time or trying to beat each other. So I was very, very flattered. To me, we're all in a business and we have to deliver a return on investment. Our guests are hugely important to us, because it's our reputation, it's their experience. But honestly, to me, I see my principal role as being with our colleagues, with our colleagues who look after the guests, because unless they're happy and motivated, we're not going to be able to give great service. An army marches on its stomach. The food in the colleague restaurant needs to be great. We need to be properly groomed. We need to offer support and care facilities for our colleagues so that when they come in here, they're on 100% and can do whatever you want to make this a world-class occasion. So whether I'm with, the colleagues like the ladies in housekeeping or the guys in engineering, or I'm sitting on a fridge in the kitchen chatting away and shooting the breeze, or whether I'm with my senior directors saying, okay, this is our strategy, this is what we should be doing, this is where I aspire for us to be in the marketplace. For me, really, that's the most important thing. And then hopefully, if we're firing on all cylinders, then we're going to deliver amazing service, so the guests will be delighted. And if the guests are delighted, they're going to go and tell other guests, and also they're going to choose to come back. And if that happens, we will be successful. But it's all about the guests and the colleagues.
So if we came on the right day, we might find you here in blue jeans and a sweatshirt.
Well, worse than that, I'm afraid. My yoga gear probably, but no, absolutely. As I said, I live in hotels, so
yes.
I'm seen around at weekends at funny times of the day or night for the colleagues or the guests, so never a dull moment.
One last question, and it's a very Washington question, and that is, we are just a few months away from 2013 and a presidential inauguration. How does an event like that impact the hotel, and how do you begin to plan it? Do you plan with the other hotels in the area to deal with the influx of guests and that sudden surge of multiple inaugural balls and special events that must come close to overwhelming you at times?
I think, obviously, it's a wonderful opportunity to showcase DC and to showcase the hotel. We deal with a lot of high-profile delegations and a lot of galas. Now, obviously, Inauguration is very, very special. But, we have to deliver the same levels of service as we already would, but maybe a bit more because of the expectation.
Yes.
And I think particularly what we've seen is, heads of state and other dignitaries coming in with huge supporting delegations and, really looking for for a very, very special experience. You know, of course, we almost have direct access to the National Mall here, so we're the closest luxury hotel. But, you know, I think the requirements tend to come around security and special requests. Last time we had an inauguration here, colleagues from our other Mandarin hotels came to help, you know, recognising that we really, really need to go over and above. So we've got an extra large squad of people really wanting to anticipate the needs and make it very, very special.
So, in the best of all worlds, every day is Inauguration Day at the Mandarin Oriental.
Absolutely. We very much like to think so and aspire for it to be that way.
Well, thank you very much, Amanda, for taking time to be with us today, for giving so generously of your experience and of your beautiful hotel and locale as well. And thank you for joining us on our website at Diplomatic Connections. We hope you'll take time to look at the other interviews that are available and join us again as we move around Washington and the diplomatic community to share the experience and the insights of diplomats and leaders in the hospitality industry, in the military, in the diplomatic corps around Washington, D.C., to make a difference in how you see this place and how we all live together in a diplomatic community. Thank you.